What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron. I'm not going to lie to you guys. The basement has seen better days. We just got back from filming our home league draft down the shore on Airbnb, courtesy of Underdog. They are the best. But I'm going to be honest, I just had to set up the lights. I brought the lights down there, the camera down there. We just set everything up. I still have bags that aren't even unpacked yet. But if I'm going to go down the shore and crush my home league, who am I not to help you guys crush your home league? So today we're going to look through 10 of the worst values in home leagues. I was looking through sort of like the pre-draft rankings and ADP on Sleeper, ESPN, and Yahoo, and 10 players really stood out that were pushed way up either because they're running backs or because they're just big names that are kind of past their primes that some more casual home league guys might just see that name and be like, okay, that's the only guy that I know on the board. I'm going to take him here. So we're going to go through 10 players you should just let your league mates draft because they're pushed up way too high on these home league sites today. If you enjoy, if you learn something new, make sure down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gonna let me.
Now, Underdog not only sent me and 10 of my boys down the shore for this home league draft, but they also are the home of the sharpest ADP out there. Make sure if you're not already, check out Underdog Fantasy. When you hop on there, I have a link in the description, comment section down below. Click the link, it'll take you there. It'll use promo code RON. And when you use promo code RON on Underdog Fantasy, you get a deposit match up to $100. They have best ball drafts going all day long. You can hop in there and get a feel for what ADP should look like. Yes, this is wide receiver heavy, but it's a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league that's half PPR. My home league is 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, half PPR. It's really not all that different. And it's the sharpest ADP because everybody is 18 plus, 21 plus. There's actual money on the line, so people actually care, right? Like these ESPN mock draft rooms or Yahoo, and a lot of these home league sites that are sort of compiling ADP, they're using averages from like January when the year just ended, and you have guys like Dalvin Cook way pushed up who we're going to talk about, and it's just rough. It's okay to do mock drafts on there to get a feel for kind of what a room might be like, but when you go on Underdog, you can get a feel for what a actual real money league should look like so that when you go into your home league, you have these values in your head of where these players should go so you're not reaching and so that you're taking the best values across the board. So again, Underdog Fantasy, promo code RON. We're going to be using that all video to sort of cross-reference things. And first up, our first do not draft player / let your league mate draft this player is Najee Harris. Now he goes at pick 40.6 on Underdog, which is about a late 4th, but he is a middle 3rd on Sleeper. He's a late 3rd on ESPN, and he is at the 2-3 turn on Yahoo. And I think that people love to just chase these high volume running backs. Najee Harris, although he's not technically in the dead zone, he feels like a dead zone running back to me where he's just propped up because of volume. He's not the type of running back I want to spend 3rd round capital on because I don't really chase volume. And on top of that, Najee Harris, he led the NFL in touches. He led the NFL in opportunity share. He led the NFL in snap share his rookie year. And still was just like he wasn't even like the RB1 overall, right? He was a rookie. He wasn't efficient. He just had a bunch of volume, and that sort of carried him to a top 5 finish. And that's fine. But we now have Jaylen Warren in the mix, and it makes a year of Najee Harris leading the NFL in touches all that less likely. We have Jaylen Warren here who's really good. It reminds me a lot of like Eckler and Melvin Gordon, Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. I'm not discrediting Najee at all. I don't think that Jaylen Warren's going to come out here and dethrone Najee Harris. But what was once like an 85-15 split a lot of the time with Najee Harris, I think it's now going to be more 65-35. That's what we saw the split be down the stretch of the season last year. And Jaylen Warren's just electric with the ball in his hands. 0.11 EPA per rush, whereas Najee Harris was at minus 1.1. That's on a per play basis. What are you doing in terms of expected points added? So in terms of getting first downs, touchdowns, all of that. On a per play basis, Najee Harris is minus 0.1 on what's expected per rush, which means you should just be passing the ball instead of letting Najee Harris run the ball. And then also, Jaylen Warren had a 0.76 rushing yards over expected, whereas Najee had a minus 0.49. So a lot of people love to point to the Steelers having a bad O-line, and even with a bad O-line, Jaylen Warren still outproduced him across the board. Now, again, I don't think that Jaylen Warren is going to take his job. I just think that he's going to make this more of a split than what people would like to admit, because for Najee Harris to pay off, he's a volume bet, and I don't think that league-leading touch share is in the range of outcomes, unless like there's a Jaylen Warren injury, I guess. Now, there's also a ton of Jaylen Warren buzz already. He's one of my favorite late-round picks, and this is from some beat reporter in the Steelers realm. And he said, Jaylen Warren continues to have a steadily strong training camp. His routes are crisp, and he has good hands. The guy is the quintessential do-it-all running back. Warren has some Austin Eckler-like qualities in his game. there's a lot of buzz right now. Again, the only way that Najee sort of pays off is on volume. I don't think it's going to be there. I'm not going to pay any of these home league prices for it. I mean, like, ESPN isn't disgusting or anything, but middle third, early third on Yahoo and Sleeper, I think you just want to let one of your league mates take Najee Harris. Now, after that, we have Joe Burrow. And I want to make it clear, there's some players on this list that I don't really even hate. Like, I like Joe Burrow. Like, Joe Burrow is a guy that I draft, and I'm trying to keep these aligned with the players that I'm sort of fading. But Underdog boosts up quarterbacks so much to the point where he's going in the late third on Sleeper, and he's going at the 501 on Underdog. Now, make sure you sort of pencil this down. Underdog is more quarterback friendly, right? Or like, you want quarterbacks more on Underdog because it's half PPR. So when it's half PPR and quarterbacks stay the same, quarterbacks get that much more of an advantage. And you also can't stream quarterbacks on Underdog as well. So quarterbacks all get pushed up. Like, you see Mahomes has like a second round ADP on there. Allen and Jalen Hurts right at that 2-3 turn. And even in a format like that, where people love stacking and they want to get T. Higgins and Jamar Chase stacked with Joe Burrow, he's still going at pick 49 at the 501 at like the 4-5 turn. So he's going like a full round and some change over where he's going on Underdog, where it's actually, I wouldn't call it QB premium, but there is a premium on QBs, if that makes sense. So again, I think Burrow's going to be fine this year. It's just bad business to know that in sharp leagues with money on the line, he's going at the 4-5 turn, and in your home league, he might go at the 3-4 turn. Like, that's just too much to pay. Maybe he'll fall since then because of the training camp injury that he had, but it seems like it's not that serious, and it seems like it hasn't budged home league ADP all that much. In my eyes, Burrow's cool, but in these home leagues, you can get Herbert or Justin Fields like a round later, and I think that that's a much better idea. Now, we have a similar situation here with some of these next players, but Aaron Jones is one of these guys that I think casual home league guys, they just know the name, and it makes sense to press the button on them, and it's tough, right? On Sleeper, his price isn't crazy on Sleeper, but Yahoo and ESPN, he is a late third, where on Underdog, he is an early fifth. So that's like a round and a half that you're paying up on. And on these sites, he's going in this range with like Calvin Ridley in the mix and Deebo Samuel in that area, and I'm taking all of those wide receivers over Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is a very good real-life player, but if we're drafting him in the late third, we're drafting him sort of just on name value and just what he's done in the past, and I don't really want to pay for previous production. We now have A.J. Dillon breathing down his neck. We now have Aaron Rodgers gone, and you're not getting a massive, massive discount like you kind of are on Underdog. Like, if you want to draft him at the 4-5 turn, I'm completely fine with that, but third-round Aaron Jones, really tough to stomach for me. Our fourth player that we're letting our league mates draft in these home leagues in 2023 is George Kittle. And I don't mind George Kittle this year, but these sites, they just sort of tend to push up the tight ends a lot, or especially Sleeper pushes up tight ends a lot. I think ESPN and Yahoo, it might just be a thing of Kittle is a big name. But he's going a full, like, round and a half, 2 rounds ahead of Darren Waller and Kyle Pitts, who I all have on the same tier. Like, I can't really get pushing that up. Now, again, Underdog, in theory, pushes up your quarterbacks and tight ends because, again, you can't stream. And in a half PPR, tight ends are so touchdown dependent that they're pretty decent. They get pushed up, and again, you can't stream them. So, like, having a tight end that can get in your lineup every week is a big advantage in Underdog. And even then, like, Travis Kelce is like the 6th overall pick on ADP. And even then, Kittle is still an early 6th rounder on Underdog. You're paying 4th round price on Sleeper, 5th round price on ESPN, 4th round on Yahoo, and on Underdog, he goes 6th round. So it's tough. Like, it's just really steep for a tight end. Last year, he had 11 touchdowns and just 13.3 points per game, which is just the 8th best tight end season since 2020. So, like, over the last 3 years, it was a fine season, but it wasn't draft him in the 4th round next year. We sort of have some ambiguity when it comes to the quarterbacks there, right? You have Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, you have Trey Lance. You don't know how that's going to shake out over an entire season. You have the idea of, like, McCaffrey is going to be here fully installed in training camp. You have Deebo healthy, Ayuk healthy. Of course, Kittle's kind of like a handcuff where if, like, Deebo gets hurt or McCaffrey gets hurt, it kind of raises up Kittle. But it puts him in a really tough spot out the gates here. And he's a really talented player. But to me, the 4th round is just really steep for Kittle when there's a lot of really good players on the board. Now, our 5th player we're going to talk through today is Dameon Pierce. And I like Dameon Pierce. I like his price on Underdog. He's going at the 6th round or in the 6th round on Underdog. But we're talking in terms of Sleeper, early 5th, ESPN early 5th, and then Yahoo 4-5 turn. And that's tough. He's a fun upside swing, but he has some pass catching questions. Devin Singletary might be taking over in that role. Devin Singletary might be more annoying than we think. This is also going to be a bad offense, rookie quarterback. There's just not going to be a ton here, and I would rather get a guy like J.K. Dobbins a round or two later on a lot of these sites because people are sort of scared off by an ACL injury that happened 2 years ago. It's a better offense, similar player in J.K. Dobbins, and he goes for cheaper. You also have like Christian Watson, Drake London, Jerry Jeudy that all go in this range that I prefer. Now, again, I think Dameon Pierce is actually a fun bet. I don't really consider him much of a dead zone running back, but paying these prices for Dameon Pierce, like, you know, the stud running back on the Houston Texans with like maybe not a ton of pass catching upside, it's a tough bet for me to make. But on underdog, I can kind of stomach it. Now, the entire offseason, this one is actually much more on brand than the previous three. But we have Miles Sanders, who's been a pretty firm fade for me all offseason, especially on Sleeper and Yahoo, where he is a 6th-round pick on underdog, and he is going in the 5th round on Sleeper and the 5th round on Yahoo. And it's just a lot for me to pay for Miles Sanders, who to me is your dead zone back, right? Like at this point, he's like in year 5 in the league. Hasn't done anything crazy. Last year, he had 1,300 rushing yards, or he had 1,300 total yards, 11 touchdowns, and was just the RB21 in points per game. So a lot of that rushing efficiency, a lot of those touchdowns are going to go away in Carolina. It's going to be a bad offense with a rookie quarterback there. And there's been reports that he's going to catch footballs. I've seen numerous Eagles reports or Eagles beat reporters saying that Miles Sanders was never a good receiving back for them. We saw last year Miles Sanders was outside the top 50 running backs in yards per out run. He hasn't really caught passes since his first year in the NFL. I'm down to bet against that. And then even still, if he does get the receiving role, we're still talking about a guy who's probably an RB2 in points per game at best. And I don't really chase those players. I'd rather sort of play that off waivers or play that off of guys like Jalen Warren late who can pop if somebody gets hurt. Miles Sanders, to me, paying up for him in the 5th round is pretty crazy. And I also think that receiving role is a bit shaky as well because you have Chuba Hubbard there, you have Raheem Blackshear, and you have even Laviska Shenault, who's been sort of getting some buzz in training camp as lining up in the backfield. There's a lot of paths for somebody to take that passing down work. We sort of hate to admit it in fantasy, but you see a lot of the time guys like Travis Homer and DJ Dallas and JD McKissick and Rex Burkhead. You have a lot of these guys who in fantasy land are like scrubs, but they do get snaps. They are annoying to deal with. And there's just a chance that they don't end up fully doing the bell cow thing with Miles Sanders. We've seen it all the time. We see it with Antonio Gibson, where the coaches come out, he's going to be the next Christian McCaffrey, and then week 3, and it's not there. So I have an issue paying 5th-round prices on Miles Sanders on the word of his coaches, using him as a 3-down back, and even still in a 3-down back role on the Carolina Panthers for a guy that's like not uber talented. It's tough for me to buy in. Now, next up, we have James Conner. Similar deal here. I think this is just a running back that people know the name of in your home league, and he gets pushed up because of that. On underdog, he's about I think that's going to be a 7th-round pick, 80.4. But on Sleeper, he's going to be a 6th-round pick, ESPN a 6th-round pick, and Yahoo, he is a 5th-round pick, which is absolutely brutal. James Conner in the 5th round. This is a guy that is nothing but projected volume, and we've talked all offseason why that is not a good thing to chase. He is on a bad offense, bad offensive line. He is old. He gets hurt pretty much every year. He's just a fade all around at these prices. Now, 7th, 8th round on underdog, when he gets to like 8th round on underdog, that's fine. Like at that point, you're fine just buying into the projected touches, but buying the projected touches over Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk, and other guys like that, like upside wide receivers, like JSN even goes in that area, or JSN actually probably goes later than that, but he's another guy like there, like Tyler Lockett as well. There's just a lot of better wide receivers. You can get like Kyle Pitts to fall to this area. It's really tough, especially on Yahoo, man. 5th round pick on James Conner. Feels crazy to me. Now, after that, we have Alvin Kamara, who to me, it just feels like maybe home leagues maybe they're just not fully up to date with the suspension. You would think that a lot of home leagues, they would be scared off by the suspension, but he goes in the 8th round on underdog. He's going at the 5-6 turn on Sleeper. He's going in the 5th round on ESPN. Yahoo is a little more on top of their game, or I think that he's going in the 7th round down there. But Sleeper and ESPN, 5th round, like that is tough. Like you're taking 3 zeros out of the gate. And I'm shocked that these guys don't care. Like, Kamara is actually one of these guys that should be better in best ball, right? Like, those 3 zeros don't hurt you because you're going to fill up your running back room. And in best ball, the cream will rise to the top and you'll be fine over those 3 weeks. In a managed league, you're screwed for 3 weeks. And Sleeper at ESPN do not care at all. So I don't hate Kamara this year if you can get him at a discount and, you know, you can find a way to maybe like Samaje Perine or Jamal Williams your way through those first 3 weeks. But 5th round, I simply can't get there just considering the suspension. I don't really understand how it's not taking his ADP down. Like, it's crazy to look at, if I'm being honest here. Now, after that, we have Isiah Pacheco. New Jersey represent. I love Isiah Pacheco, but in fantasy, it's really tough to buy in, especially on Sleeper and Yahoo. On Underdog, he's about, I think that's going to be like an 8th, 9th round ADP. On Sleeper, that's going to be like 7th. Yahoo, that's a 6th round ADP. ESPN, much more palatable Pacheco price, but it's just tough. If we want pieces of the Chiefs, I'd rather play it through Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the two guys with pass-catching upside. 16.2 PPR points was Pacheco's best game last year. He never even had 20+. He never was really a bell cow. He was kind of just a between-the-tackles guy in a good offense, which we want, but not in the 6th, 7th round. You want that a little bit later. There's guys in this range like Deontay Johnson, JSN, George Pickens, Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett, that all go in that same range on Sleeper. There's some quarterbacks in this area. Again, you can get like Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller in this area. Pacheco, to me, I don't really see a big difference from guys like Pacheco to like your Khalil Herberts, your Antonio Gibsons, like 2 rounds later. That's just a tough price to pay. Now, our last player we're gonna talk through is kind of, again, just your home league pushing up names that they know, but it's Dalvin Cook. He goes right next to Pacheco on Sleeper, even though on Underdog he's like I don't even know what that is. I'm trying to do in my head. It's like 5 times 12 is 60, 6 times 12 72, 84. So there's like a 9th round pick on Underdog, but on Sleeper and Yahoo he's a 6th round pick, which is brutal. 6th round pick for pretty much a guy that is not like he's past his prime at this point. Like, these are his stats. 2020 he had an amazing year. 2021 wasn't terrible, but then 2022, outside of like yards per carry, yards per out run, worse it's been. 10+ yard carry rate, worse it's been. PFF grade was actually a little bit better than 2021, but still pretty bad. EPA per rush was worse than what Najee was at last year. Success rate, rushing over expected percentage, bad. Rushing yards over expected per attempt, bad. Like, I don't doubt that he might be startable for a little bit early on, but he feels like, especially in home leagues, a lot of guys are just going to see Dalvin. Like, the typical home league drafter is going to see Dalvin Cook, the big name, and see he's in a backfield with Breece Hall is coming off an ACL injury and be like, in the 6th round, that's an absolute steal. So they're going to take him there. And this is just a guy where he is now 28 years old. He's coming off one of the pretty much the worst season of his career. He has a terrible injury history. He injures his shoulders or like dislocates them every single year. He's literally working back from a shoulder surgery right now while Breece Hall is at camp running full speed, full contact, off the pup. Like, Dalvin Cook is the one who is sort of getting brought along right now, or along with an injury. I think he probably is like the 1A, 1B to Breece Hall early on, and then I think that he just loses grasp of that rope as the season goes on. I think that he's kind of a really thin pick to make that early in a draft, where I think that people are just sort of drafting a familiar name in that spot. So with that being said, that is 10 players to let your league mates draft. I don't know. It's going to be idiot league mates, dumb league mates. You've seen the titles on Fantasy Football YouTube. It's just what it is. But 10 players that are going way higher in home league settings than they are on Underdog, where there's actual real sharp ADP. And even if it's not an Underdog, like you guys know, I draft in these high-stakes NFFC leagues. We stream them all the time. And the ADP isn't all that different from where these players go on Underdog in these places. Just make sure you're being... I know a lot of these are running backs, but that's why we sort of harp on taking your running backs early. And if not early in those first 3 rounds, then you wait and you take them in that round, 7 to 10 range of the guys that we actually want to be targeting. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. I think that this is one of the more actionable videos we do every offseason, getting you prepared for your home league. And again, if you want to get prepared for your home league, it's pretty much like Rock Lee and Naruto. He's training out here with the weights on, the weighted vest, and then he drops them and he goes crazy. That's what Underdog is. Underdog, it's not going to be exactly the same as your home league, but you hop in there, 18+, 21+, actual money on the line. You can hop in there, do a ton of drafts from every single draft position, and just get a feel. Like right now, I'm at like almost 500 drafts on Underdog. I am in tune with like, okay, I'm going to be at the 8 spot. I kind of know what's going to happen in those first few rounds. Like I'm prepared across the board, whatever spot, whatever setting. I have it all almost like registered information downloaded in my head just from putting in the time. So if you want to get better for your home league, make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. You can hop in there, pretty much do like paid mock drafts, where you can put out like, $1, $3, $5, hop in some drafts, get a feel for where players should be going, and then use that to your advantage in your home league. So I have a link in the description, comment section down below. You click it, takes you to Underdog Fantasy. It uses promo code RON. When you use promo code RON, it'll match your deposit up to $100. and you can have a blast drafting teams that are all best ball. You don't have to set these lineups. You don't have to make trades. You don't have to set waivers. You draft them, you forget about them, and then you look at the end of the year and you see sort of what you won or what you lost in a sense. So with all that being said, I do enjoy you guys watching, sticking around, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm